we express our gratitude to God by devoting this moment to our family members, our friends, and anyone who has come to us asking for help, to these individuals.
So Mauricio is first of all, a good friend of ours. And this is the magic of being a spiritist, because wherever we go, we make new friends. And for me, it's the best part of spiritism, personally speaking, because it opens doors of resistances that we normally have between ourselves, because we know that we are all working in the same direction, and there is no reason why we shouldn't be friends and be closer. Years ago, I met Mauricio, and Daniel and I, when we met Mauricio, we started talking to him about the dissemination of Spiritism in this country, in the English-speaking language. Because for the ones who don't know, there is a great challenge for many in this country who became Spiritists or have been Spiritists all their lives and moved to the U.S. When they come here, there is a barrier of the language for many people. They are not sure how they are going to overcome that barrier and make it happen in English. And Mauricio has been one of the people in the U.S. who is located in a very challenging area in that regard, Florida. We all know. Very lovely friends there, but it's very tricky. But he doesn't care. He's very courageous, and he is one of the people, if not the pioneer there, who is really pushing very hard for people really to shift it and bring this knowledge to whomever needs it without the language barrier. And besides that, he became one of the leaders in Spiritism in Florida, and now he is the vice president of the Spiritist Federation in Florida. There is a beautiful organization there who really unites all centers from north to south, east to west of Florida. And he is actually the person who takes speakers from South Miami to, what is the one north? Fort Myers, Orlando, Tampa. He's the one who travels all these different centers and brings speakers and give his talks as well, bringing new light and uniting everyone, which is wonderful. So you can imagine how hard he works. Plus, he now is in the administrative component of the United States Spiritist Council, and he has finally brought new energy there and is boosting the movement nationally. And the symposium, the one that happened in Baltimore and now happening in New York, in which hundreds of people have already registered and it's already a success, couldn't happen without Mauricio's participation in the committee. He also participates in the committee. And in regards to Spiritism in its practice, it's interesting because we talk about the new generation in the book with Divaldo Franco, about this new generation who is bringing a new knowledge, who really is courageous to open new frontiers in our spirituality, in our growth. And I personally believe Mauricio is one of them, because when he was very young, he was born in a Spiritist family. I know his mother. She is a wonderful Spiritist worker and a person. But he was the one who actually opened the pathway in Florida, in his area, Pompano Beach, and founded their Spiritist Center when he was, even before, he was living his teenage years, I would say this way. He was very young, and he took the challenge to found the Spiritist Center there. and bring a lot of relief to many people. So one of the techniques that he knows and has been studying a lot is this one, the passes. It's the Spiritist laying on of hands, quote unquote. I'm not sure it's only simply, he's going to tell us more about if it's simply laying on of hands or not. But now he has a very close relationship, a friendship with the scholar in Spiritism in this technique, Jacob Mello, who is from Brazil. And now he's translating one of his books, because we lack such materials here. And when the Spiritist Society of Baltimore invited Mauricio here, we thought there's no one else better to talk about this right now from experience and study than Mauricio. Mauricio, please, enlighten us.
I don't know how to start now. We're just a worker like everyone else. We're part of many groups, and all of us together, we realize, make things come true here and there. This group here, as some of you may not know, it's very important for our national movement in America, and who knows, maybe in other countries too, because you guys have embraced this work of disseminating Spiritism in English, and you have stuck to it. And you have inspired many, many of us out there, and like I said before, in America and in other countries too. So we thank you very much for that. The magnetic therapy of passes, there's a lot to know, there's a lot to study about magnetism, about passes, about applying this therapy, working with this therapy. There's not a single person in the world that knows everything about it. There's not a single person that comes even close to knowing a lot about it. All right? This is how big, how immense this science of magnetism is, of magnetism healing and therapy is. So we're not going to pretend here tonight that we're going to talk and say everything there is about it, or that we know everything about it. Absolutely not. We're just going to tell you a little bit about experiences we have had and research we have done with many, many other friends from many other groups who are very much interested in this kind of therapy. And as we say therapy, the first thing we would like to highlight is the word therapy, because this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Therapy, magnetic therapy of passes. And what do we understand as the term therapy? I mean, when we have a problem, a medical problem, and we go to a doctor and he tells us you need to go through some kind of therapy, be that the psychological therapy or a physical therapy, we know that is going to be a process. That is going to be a program we're going to have to go through. First of all, when we go to the doctor, he's going to analyze us. He's going to give us a little form, a survey form, and he's going to find out everything about us, our current and past health state, family's health state, and from there on, he's going to perform some tests in us and decide in which kind of therapy he's going to put us through. So there's a whole process there. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're not going to be talking about that once in a while pass, that somebody comes to the Spiritist home and center and group and gets a pass, a 30-second or a 1-minute pass, and then goes home, and then he comes back 3 months or 6 months later, and again watches, stays in the meeting and then takes the pass again. This is not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the serious therapy, the serious treatment of pass giving, of magnetic pass giving, okay? And with that therapy, we also work in the Spiritist Center who knows how to go about this therapy and who is serious about it. We also survey people who are going to participate in this therapy. We also stare and compare. We also do our surveys understanding how this person or these patients, we can call them patients too, are before and after the pass session. How they are when they start the pass therapy, and how they feel a month later, 2 months later, 6 months later. So we in the Spiritist Center who are taking this therapy, this work very seriously, also take the time to really make it a therapy, just like any other physical, material, medical therapy there is. Because let's remember, we are dealing here with persons, patients, people's physical bodies, emotional bodies, psychological bodies, and spiritual bodies. So we have to be very responsible about it. Right? In this book, Spiritism and the Enlightened Radiations, written by Leon Denis, who is like one of the persons who has mostly contributed to Spiritist science and Spiritist philosophy. Leon Denis tells us and explains us how important it is. Everything we think, all of our thoughts, all of our actions, everything that we do and we think reflects on how not only our lives are, not only our lives go about, but also how the whole universe goes about. So Leon Denis tells us that our thoughts, the thoughts of all the races, of all the existing beings in the universe, combined, they form these many, many different levels of radiations, of beams of light, that go through the whole universe, that cross the whole universe. All of these thoughts, of course, are working and materializing and changing what we understand to be the primary, the basic element of the whole universe, which is the universal fluid. From that fluid, many others, we don't know how many, thousands, millions, who knows, maybe billions of different other fluids are formed, all from this primary universal fluid. So our thoughts modify this fluid, and we make up other different levels of fluids. Some more refined, some more dense, but they're all around us. The more refined these fluids are, the fastest they travel, the further away they go. Some of them that are built, that are formed by spirits who are so enlightened that they cross many, many galaxies in the universe. We have books that written from the spirits that even shows us that some of these mentalizations, some of these thoughts, some of these fluids come from one planet and reach another planet, helping other planets because they're so good, because they're so refined. So everything we think, everything we do has of course, a result has an effect in other people's lives, in other planets' existence, and in how the universe goes about. And this is a beautiful thing when we start studying about fluids, because this is what we're going to be talking about tonight, fluids. In the field of technology and telecommunications, we understand nowadays how important it is to divide the different types of fluids, the different types of radiation, the different types of radio signals, the different types of signals within the same signal of light, the same beam of light. We have, and I brought something here for you guys to see. What we use in telecommunications today. This is fiber optics. I don't know if you have seen it before, but this is just a tiny cable of fiber optics. Every single phone call we make today, every time we log into a computer and surf the web, this is what we're going through. This little baby here holds thousands and thousands of connections. As a matter of fact, telecommunications specialists or designers or engineers don't even know what the real capacity is of an optical cable. We have a limit to the equipment we use, but the actual light that goes through here, the laser beam that goes through here, as far as we know, we haven't reached its capacity yet, and we don't know if there is one. But the important thing about this is that this technology of fiber optics have grown so much that we have not only started to utilize laser technology, light technology, to pass our information through. We have also divided up this light beam, this laser beam, in many different phases. And we're now using within this one laser light beam many different paths to pass even more information, what we call DWDM, dense wave multiplexing. So now we're looking at a light spectrum which is just a representation of what the spiritual world or what divinity uses and has made in order for everything to work. Fluids, our thoughts, everything is really in a different spectrum in the universe. It's all the fluids come from the same place, but they are all in different parts of a spectrum. Again, some more dense, again, some more refined, but everything is about a spectrum, all right? We also work with technology. Whoever works with computers in any type of electrical equipment knows at least a little bit, hopefully they know a little bit about electric static discharge and energy. This here is something that we use so we won't damage equipment when we're working with it. Like if we pick up a card from a computer or any other type of equipment, if we touch with our hands without discharging our static energy before we do that, we may damage and we will probably damage that equipment. So this is one of the things that technological companies, corporations spend millions and billions of dollars on, so that won't happen. And of course, telling us exactly what a lot of us already know, that we are human batteries, per se. We hold a great amount of energy within our own bodies. With that said, I would like to call here 3 volunteers. Please, let's see, who are the courageous ones? I'm going to do a little electrical test with you guys. 3 volunteers, please. If you can stand up here. All right, and if you can, open your hands, all right, as much as you can. Just, well, one of them anyway. This is a little demonstration here of what static energy is. All right? Doesn't do it in the book, right? Man, you're too much. Yeah. I don't want to be too close to you. I want to get shocked. Thank you. Oh, that wasn't too hard, huh? So that's magnetic energy, my friends. We're all just big walking batteries, really, if you think of it. One of the things we need to understand is when we're dealing with passes, we're not really dealing with this energy we just saw here. We don't know the exact relation in between the magnetic fluid that we use in passes and the magnetic fluid that we have, this bioenergy that we have in our bodies. We don't know the exact relation is. We know they are from the same family. And we know that the fluid that comes from up above, the more refined fluids, are not this bioenergy that we see here. But they're all from the same family in different scales in the spectrum, as we saw, for example, in the spectrum of light. There's a spectrum of energy also. It's important for us to understand the difference in between a medium and a pass giver. Many people, including many spiritists, sometimes get a little confused about it. They think that, okay, if I apply pass, if I work as a pass giver, I'm a medium. Not necessarily. Not really. A medium is somebody who has this ability. An ability for spirits to either communicate through it, to channel through it, or to use the medium's body in a way where something is going to be performed. A healing is going to be performed, or again, communication is going to be performed. A pass giver may or may not be a medium. As a pass giver, I may have no mediumship whatsoever, or I can have different types of mediumships that have nothing to do with healing. But I can still, as a pass giver, heal. So what we're going to be explaining here tonight, continue our subject tonight, is more demonstrating on how a pass giver should work. Because mediumship, a person who has the ability to heal, can heal like in many different ways. It's almost impossible for us to categorize the type of technique a medium is going to use. I mean, we have information from healing mediums that heal people by touching. Some heal by looking at them. Some heal by cutting them with a knife. And some others heal from even a distance, even without knowing the people they're actually healing. You know, And when we read portions of the Bible, which is really one of the greatest mediumship books that were ever written, we see how Jesus came up, how Jesus performed healing. Sometimes he even healed people he wasn't looking at or he didn't know. Sometimes people came to him and asked him to heal their family and friends, and without even knowing them, he healed them. So we're not going to be dealing with that part of magnetic healing, the mediumship part of it. We're going to be dealing with the past giving part of it. So what is it? What exactly is past giving? What exactly is the renewal of one's magnetic organization and more? We'll worry about the more later. For now, let's stick with this. Because we could say, all right, it's a donation, it's a transfusion of fluids. Yeah, that's correct too. But past giving is much more than that, much more. Again, when we say therapy, it's much more than just, donating energies and good thoughts and good feelings. Much more than that. As we said before, Jesus healed. That's one of the things that really caught the attention of many peoples since Jesus did his healings. Many people. In our case, especially, Kardec studied not only healing, but magnetism. Kardec was involved with the study of magnetism some decades, 3 or even a little bit more, 3 decades or more. He studied magnetism before he came in contact with spiritual channeling and with spiritual communications, way before. So he had always been interested in it. And this is how Kardec puts it as far as magnetism and spiritism goes. Magnetism and spiritism are 2 twin sciences that complement and explain each other. In order for each one of them not to become stagnant, they cannot be isolated from each other. Spiritism and magnetism reciprocate that interface of physics, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. And that came from the Spiritist magazine of 1869, written in France. So what is Kardec telling us here? We can't understand Spiritism without understanding magnetism, and vice versa. We can't completely apply one without the other. We can't. We can't completely use one without the other, because magnetism, it's about fluids. If we don't understand about fluids, forget about spiritism, because that's what we do. We exchange fluids every day, magnetic fluids. Every time we think, we create, we modify fluids. We play with the universal fluid every time. Every time there's a spiritual channeling, communication, what we're seeing there is fluids going about, being modified. When a medium channels a spirit, what does he feel? If he feels cold, if he feels pain, what is he really feeling? What is he really feeling? He's feeling these fluids that are coming from the spirit and are actually being implemented in the medium's physical body. So magnetism and spiritism are twin science, and they can't live without each other. In this renewal of one's magnetic organization, we can see a few things happening here. When we start working as past givers, there's a few things we got to do. It's not only, again, past giving is not only donating. It's not only sending our fluids to the patient. That's not only what it is all about. First of all, we can sense a person's magnetic field, a person's fluidic field. We can sense the person's chakras, one of the first steps. We can, if we find anything wrong with any of these chakras or centers of force, or whatever you want to call it, all of these names and symbols, it's really just for us to understand how things go about. There's so many names for a chakra. Every religion that or doctrine that deals, or philosophy that deals with the centers of force, we'll call it something else, or chakras or pranas or something else. So it's really not about the names, okay? As long as we understand on how to work with it. So we can sense, if we see anything wrong in one of these chakras, we can unblock. We can, after unblocking anything that's going on, we can realign the chakras, and we can donate. We can do a transfusion of fluids from our body, our past giver's body, to the patient's structure. And this is what we see here now. The spirit, the physical body, and the divisions in between it. The perispirit, a very important factor in this whole work of past giving. Because the chakras are really this bridge in between the physical body and the perispirit. And the perispirit, it's like let's say a hard drive in a computer. It has all this information from many lives. If we suffer some problems in our physical bodies nowadays, these problems are coming about because if they're from past lives, from things we did in past lives, they're coming about because they are stored in the perispiritual memory. So we have these chakras who are these bridges in between the physical body and the perispirit. And this is what in past giving we utilize. These are channels we're going to utilize to perform our therapy, to heal, or to make the physical body even better than it was when started the therapy. List of chakras: crown, frontal, throat, heart, navel, sacral, and root. We're not going to go too much into them about what each one does exactly, and how each one has, what each one has to do with our thinking being and our psychological being. All we need to know really for now is that these are the major and the principal and the basic chakras. There are many, many more, but these are the basic ones we can concentrate on in order for us to deal with magnetic passes. The chakra's shape. Many people think that this chakra is just rounded and it just sits in front of our heads or on top of our heads, and it's just rounded. But the shape of a chakra, the chakra has really the shape of a cone. And the chakra moves. It's like a wheel that moves around in a clockwise direction. So when we are performing passes, and when we do our laying on of hands, it's important to know this, because some people are so worried about putting the hand exactly on top of somebody's head and exactly on the person's heart, and it doesn't really have to be that way. The chakras are actually pretty extensive in a person's comparing to a person's physical body. The chakra goes the chakra's field goes about around here, and around here, and above our heads, way around there. So we don't have exactly to put our hands like right on top of a person's head or forehead. Chakras realignment. When we start working with passes and understanding first, again, sensing what the patient needs, and then start thinking about realigning the person's chakras, because the chakras, depending on how our thoughts are, depending on how our life is, our actions are, we may block the chakras that are really supposed to be a generating unit that's supposed to generate energy at all times. And sometimes we block this generation of energy, or of a good flow of energy in the chakras. So the pass giver, with time, will learn to understand where the patient needs more help, in which chakra. Sometimes the patient, most of the time, the patient is only having problems in one or more chakras, not in all of them, really. But the problem of having problems in one chakra only is that this chakra ends up damaging the circulation and the flow of other chakras. It's just like any engine that we know, the engine of a car, of any problems we have in our bodies. If we don't treat it, they start damaging other organs or other parts of the engine. So we have to fix it and treat it somehow. And the same thing happens with chakras. So once we start treating, in that case, the chakra would be the throat chakra, the third one down. If we start treating it, it starts pulling the other ones to its normal state of flow and of circulation. That's how the chakra realignment goes about. A very important chakra that also exists, and some people either don't know about or don't pay much attention about, is the cervical spinal. Some other people call it the nape of the neck chakra. But this chakra is very important, especially for people who deal with mediumship, who deal with channeling, mediumistic meetings, because it not only helps if we donate enough energy, enough fluids to that chakra. It helps as the medium is trying to channel a spirit, an entity, or if we want to help the medium to get rid of a communication or end a communication, we can do dispersive passes in that chakra. And we'll talk more about the types of passes techniques there is. But this is a very important one that many people don't really pay much attention about. Usually what happens, what we see a lot in the Spiritist Center is people who come and start taking passes and go through the pass therapy, and people who are having mediumistic problems or even going through cases of obsession, they sometimes, just by closing their eyes and meditating for like 30 seconds, they start channeling spirits. Again, especially spirits who are trying to obsess mediums. Any chance they have, they will automatically take that body, and try to do whatever it pleases him. So these passes are very good in emergency situations when we see people going through that, and people who really don't have an education about mediumship or about how to deal with these situations. If we do dispersive passes in the cervical spinal chakra, it will help. It will make it much easier for the medium to detach itself from that spirit. The nadis, they are really just channels of flow. Chakras are just the centers of force. They're like the big centers of force, but they're all connected. All the chakras are connected to these small membranes, small channels that go all across the body, all over the body. Again, fluidic channels that go all across the body. And this is what people who deal with acupuncture deal with. And as a very experienced past giver, all of us can also learn how to feel the nadis. We're not only going to sense what the chakra is telling us, how the chakra is performing, but with time we can go nadis by nadis and feeling if blockage is in any of the nadis. If there's no blockage in any of the chakras, and the patient is still going through problems, just like in acupuncture, we can feel where the blockages are and work on them. A therapy is a therapy. Again, we're dealing with therapies here. These are sessions that take some time. This is not a 30-second thing. This is not a 1-minute thing. These are sessions that go from any time in between 5 minutes to 10, 15 minutes, or how long it takes for the past giver and the past givers to understand that they're really helping the patient. And of course, sessions can go for months and months and on. So when the patient comes and fills out his form and sits down with people who coordinate the work, the therapy of past work in the Spiritist Center, we will decide what type of treatment that person needs. Is it going to be a treatment that's going to deal more with obsession, or is it a physical problem, an emotional problem? So there's different types of treatment for all of that in the Spiritist Center. We're also going to follow up and document everything. Everything we do with a patient, from talking to the patient to applying any passes whatsoever, we will document. And we will have a group of people who will follow up on it. We will change methods if needed. Don't doctors do that all the time? Or, this medication don't work. It's getting me worse. We get home, we take that pill. Oh my God, now I'm really gonna die. Don't they change methods all the time? So why can't we, as past therapists, do that? Recognize that what we're doing is not right, and change it. Because so many people say, oh, we have been doing that for so long. That's what we hear the most. When we talk about passes, that's what we hear the most. Oh, my parents used to do it that way. I'm like a 10th generation Spiritist, and we always did it that way. But guess what? Still not working. We're still not seeing people feel better when they leave your Spiritist Center. As a matter of fact, a lot of people feel worse, and they don't even know why. They went through the past session, they went through the past therapy session, and they're feeling even worse than what they felt before. But we don't even know, because we're not documenting, we're not asking, we're not following up on what we're doing. We're just thinking, for some reason, that whatever we're doing is good enough. Whatever we're doing is working. And the spirits are going to block what we're doing if we're not doing it right. And the spirits are going to guarantee the work that we're doing if we're not doing it right. The spirits are going to prevent us from damaging a person's physical body if we didn't prepare ourselves, if we didn't study enough, if we didn't treat the people the right way, the patients the right way. So why do we think the spirits are really going to do that for us? Why do we think that? Why do we think we don't have a single drop of responsibility that we can just do anything we want just because other people did it this way or did it that way, and the spirits are going to pretty much just take care of everything for us. That's not how it works, my friends. If we stop working now, we quit our jobs now, and we say, all right, I don't want to have a job anymore because I'm only going to dedicate myself to the work of the Spiritist Center. What a beautiful thing, huh? Do we really think the spirits are going to materialize money for us to leave? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's not how things work. They help us when we decide to help ourselves. They help us when we decide to help other people. But there's no way they're going to do that for us. So we change methods if we need, and we'll always also observe about the placebo effect. You know, or people just feeling better because they come to the Spiritist Center and they meditate and they hear good things and they start changing their hearts and they start thinking good things and they get better. Also, placebo effect. They just change the way they are and they feel better. It might not have anything to do with the past. Nothing to do. But some people, again, think, even though without having any documentation, any official treatment, any follow-up, because people come to the center, take the past and feel better and go, they can say, all right, my past is working. Not always. That might not be the case. All right. Preparing ourselves. We study a lot. That's a common word for everything we do in Spiritism. We study. Location. It is best to do this work in a place that is appropriate for it, where the fluids have already been prepared, where the whole ambience has been prepared. I mean, we got here, an hour before the meeting started. I mean, when do you think the spiritual guides got here? If they ever left from the last meeting. You know, so this place is prepared. It is prepared. We are secured to work in this place. If we are going to go through surgery, where do we want the surgery to be performed? Out in the parking lot? I don't think so. I don't think so. So this is not, we're not going to be performing our therapy out in the parking lot or in a forest or in a park. No. In our house, in our homes? Absolutely not. No. These kinds of places, such as the Spiritist Center, is where we're going to be performing this therapy. Prayer, we can't do any of this work without prayer. I'm not going to go too much into it. Unselfish motives. We are going to help people because we are wanting to start loving our brothers and our sisters. This is why we're going to help people. We're not going to help people because we want people to know that we're helping them or because we want people to tell other people how good of a past giver we are or because we want to make a living off of it. There's no way we can do this kind of work in a complete way, in a good way, and charge for it. There's absolutely no way. A few techniques here. Direction of movements. I need another volunteer. No one? No one? You won't take long. You won't get shocked like the other ones did. What? Oh, okay. So we can see from here. Well, this is very simple. Most of you, I'm sure, have taken passes, so you know pretty much what we're doing here. The first thing to understand is that the flow of currents, of fluidic currents, goes from top to bottom. So we're going to be working from top to bottom. Because think of it as, let's say, water going down this current. You do not want to go against the water because you're going to somehow disrupt the system, disrupt this current, and you're going to eventually make the whole system worse. So you're going to work from top to bottom. And as we were saying before, in the past therapy, you usually start to sense the person's fluidic body. You start to sense the person's chakras. Some people will feel their hands warm. Some people will feel it cold. Some people will feel their fingers kind of move or vibrate a little bit. Each one of us has a different type of sensitivity towards that. But with time, we understand and we start perceiving these kinds of things. So if I'm trying to sense the person's fluidic body, and if I get, let's say, to the heart chakra of the person, cardiac chakra, and I start doing something different, that might be a place I may want to work at. And remember, again, we have already talked to the patient. We have a survey on the patient. Sometimes the patient already told us kind of where he needs to be worked on. As we understand what each chakra is connected to in the body, as far as organs go, as far as emotions go, we kind of have a map to where to work on the patient, on what to try on the patient. The same thing as a medical doctor, same way as a medical doctor. So we start to perceive, and usually if the patient told us something that's related to her or his heart chakra, we're going to feel it right there. And we're going to work from there. So the same thing we really do is to sense. What are we going to do? We can't just, start doing movements all over the place and donating here, donating there, without any need for. We need to know exactly what we're going to work on. So we sense the person. Once we feel something and we know what we have to do, then we start working on the person. We can, depending on what the problem is, we can sometimes feel that the chakra is blocked because of too much concentration of fluids, which happens a lot. Most of the cases are too much concentration of fluids, which may almost cause the chakra to stop. Because think again of this cone, this funnel. And if you're throwing like way too much water in it, way too much water, what's going to happen to the water? It's going to like stop. It won't kind of move too rapidly, right? It's going to be blocked up. So the same thing with fluids. If we feel there's a great concentration of fluids in that chakra, the last thing we want to do is to donate even more. That's the last thing we want to do. All right, we're going to damage it even more. So we want to disperse it really fast, and this technique will unblock the chakra, and it will normalize its rotation, its flow of current of fluid. We want to unblock it. If we feel that one of the chakras has too little movement, or too much movement, too little fluids in it, then we will donate. When that happens a lot when people are going through depression. Usually the person who's going through depression have very little magnetic fluids in their body. And that's when they need us to donate the most. Right? So basically we're going to sense it. We can disperse it depending on what the problem is. And let's not be shy or ashamed about movements. Dispersive passes work better when we move fast. And I think that was our item. When we donate, we donate, and again, our hands, when they come back, they're going to come back from way out there. Remember what we talked about, how the shape of chakras are. They are round shaped and they're kind of big and long. They're just not here. So we don't want to donate any energy or block the flow or fluidic flow as we're coming back. All right, we'll donate. stay here a little bit, please. Let's see what comes next. Speed. Again, the faster we go, the more we're going to normalize these centers of force. The more these fluidic concentration is gonna disappear. The faster the movement, the more we make the fluidic forces disintegrate. The slower we go, the more we concentrate these forces. Distance, usually we can apply passes from like 10 inches from the patient. Again, it really depends on what we're feeling on the patient's body. If we feel that this person really needs a lot of concentration, we can get closer. Again, let's feel as if water or light was coming out of our hands. The closer we are, the more fluids we're going to donate. The further away, the less, because light fluids will travel a longer distance. So distance usually about 10 inches, or each one of us will learn with time, or have learned with time, how close we should work to our patients. Use of palm or fingers. Some people work with passes for such a long time, and they don't see any results. They're like, man, I do everything right. I take notes, I talk to the patients, I observe all these things, and I pray, and I'm in the Spiritist Center, but I never see anybody getting better from my therapies. Some people may be using the wrong type of pass source. They can be using the palm of our hands when they should be using their fingers. These are two very distinct sources of energy. So we also have to find out what type of a pass giver we are. A palm-handed one or finger type, digital type of pass giver. Thank you. Are you feeling comfortable? Okay. We talked about the Unites already. The pass giver's ability and patient's sensitivity. Another thing we can pay attention to, and again, this goes through all the observations and all the documentation. Sometimes we have a pass giver that doesn't have, that is not as much powerful energy-wise, fluidically-wise, as other pass givers are. So, of course, he's not going to be able to donate as much or to have as much success as other pass givers may have. That doesn't mean he or she can't be a pass giver. It just means it will take him longer to do the same thing other pass givers could do. We also have the patient sensitivity. Some patients, just by you donating a little bit of energy, the patient can feel a lot. And some others will take him time to feel, and he has to meditate and prepare himself so he can actually absorb that energy. Did you have a question?
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned Jesus, and certainly the Bible has stories of his ability to heal. So are you saying that Jesus was acting as a pass giver, or a pass giver in a medium, and then how is it?
Okay, I was not there. From my studies, what I think is that not only he was a pass giver, but he also was a medium healer. Okay, and he used different types of these techniques in different instances. Not only he used the type where he can himself, as a human being as he was, not only he donated magnetic energy and worked on people and healed people from his own physical body, And in other instances, he healed people with his mediumship, with help of also spiritual guides, okay, who of course have much more mobility than we do as we are incarnated. All right. Does that answer your question? A little bit. Past givers and patient sensitivity. Sometimes we have people who get to our home, our Spiritist center, and they're like, well, I don't want to take the pass. And we're like, well, why not? Why wouldn't you like to take the pass if you're feeling this and that, and you're complaining and you want help? Like, well, no, because I went to another Spiritist center, and when I take the pass, I get a headache or something else. I'm like, well, what kind of pass are you taking? Well, people are doing this and that. And usually people are just putting their hands over there and donating and transmitting fluids for like a whole minute or more. So for patients who are very sensitive, there's no way they're going to go through that and not feel some kind of problem in their physical bodies. So we explain to these people what sensitivity is and what passes are a little bit, and they usually understand. But people who are not very sensitive, patients who are not very sensitive, you can do all kinds of things, and it might take some time for them to feel something. But remember, if we're doing the wrong type of therapy, and a patient don't have too much sensitivity, it's going to take some time for him to feel good or bad with the therapy. So we need to pay attention to these things. Past givers and patients, empathy and aversion. Some of us can have a fluidic disconnect with our past giver or with a past giver, patient and past giver, or vice versa. There's all these types of connections going on. And when you study, magnetism, we understand that. There's negative and positive poles, and this kind of thing happens. And the same thing can happen during the past given therapy. The disconnection in between patients and the past givers. Empathy and aversion. And we have to keep an eye on that throughout the therapy and documentation and surveys and see if that may be happening. Recommendations to the patient and the past giver. No one knows how many sessions will be needed to achieve complete healing and if it will in fact be achieved. So we as a past giver or as a Spiritist Center coordinator, we will never tell somebody, in a week or in 3 sessions or in a month, you're going to be healed. Never, ever, because we really don't know. As we have seen, there's too much going on for us to know that. Have we ever gone to a doctor and he told us, are you going to be better in a week? Absolutely not. We might go to him with a tiny headache. He will never tell us, take this pill, you're going to feel better in a week. He will never tell us that. He knows better not to be sued. It makes no difference to keep our eyes open or closed during therapy. No difference whatsoever. Most people prefer to keep their eyes closed because they can concentrate better, because they can pray better. And that's about it. And we're talking about the patient or the past giver. It really doesn't matter. There is no need for a relationship to exist between the patient and the past giver. Any type of relationship. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to be family members. We don't have to be boyfriend or girlfriend or married. There's no need. This is about, fluids. This is about magnetic fluids. That's all it is about. It's not about relationships. Because some people go to the Spiritist Center, and that happens a lot to kids. When they walk into the past giving room, they're like, oh, I want to sit with my dad. I want my dad. I want my mom. Usually they do that. But sometimes adults do that too. There's no need, okay? After the pass, any feeling of discomfort, dizziness, and pain must be reported. It's not be ashamed about it. It don't matter if we're a past giver or if we are a patient. If we feel anything different, let's talk to somebody. We should never leave the Spiritist center feeling, bad or with a headache or with, a spiritual attachment. Never. We should always talk to somebody. The patient's positioning of hands during the session is not important. No, we do not have to sit and put our hands up like that. There's no need for that. Well, what are we working with in the past giving process here? With the chakras. All right, and the basic chakras are really, there's no basic chakra in the hand, the primary chakra, so there's no need for it. As a matter of fact, since we're talking about that, we don't even have to be facing the past giver, because these chakras are not in front of us or are not behind us. They're really channels that are going through us, openings that are going through us, okay? Fluidic channels through us. So if I want to give a pass in a person, the person can be laying down, the person can be standing up. It doesn't matter. The chakras, it's not physically over here or physically, behind or in front of me. Channeling is not necessary during the past therapy. Absolutely not. We are past givers. We're magnetic past givers. We don't need to have a spiritual guide giving the past for us. The spiritual guides will always help us. There's different types of past, right? Usually we divide it up in three. The one, as we usually say, we do it on our own, the past giver. The one that's mixed, us and the spiritual guides, and the other one which is just the spiritual guides doing. But as we know it to be true, whenever we're working for love and for helping others and with charity in our minds, we're always helped by the spiritual guides. Always helped. They're not going to do the work for us as a past giver, but they are going to expand the power of our fluids. All right? But channeling is not necessary for that to happen. We don't have to channel and start talking to the patient. That becomes a complete mess. Imagine if you had 5, 6 past givers all talking. There's no need for that. And there's no need, absolute no need for the patient to channel either. I don't care what problem he's having. It may be an obsession problem. It doesn't matter. He does not need to channel. As a matter of fact, it becomes even harder if he channels the spirit, because now nobody can concentrate. Now you have to talk to the spirit. Always remember to thank the spiritual guides for their assistance. Always a must, because they're always helping us. What is it? The renewal of one's magnetic organization and more. Now we get to the more part. How are we doing on time? All right? She said I had an hour and a half, so I think I'm still there, right? And we're almost done. And more. So, this is what, I forgot who said this. Blah, blah, blah. All right. This is in the Spiritist magazine of 1887. Generally speaking, the ones who search to benefit from the healing power have as their single desire to reestablish their material health by freeing any blockages that may be causing an organ of the physical body from functioning properly. Be aware that this is the least valuable service this power has to offer. If this is the only objective you see in this power, your knowledge of it is very primitive and rudimental. The healing power has a mission of much greater nobility and reach. If in one hand it can heal physical bodies, it can also purify souls, and it is only in this case that it can literally be called a healing power. So, in other words, what do we see here? We see that it is very important for us to help people to go about their lives feeling better, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It is our duty to do that as spiritists, as human beings. But the most important thing is for people to understand that they need to reform themselves, to change the way they are. Because if you're healed now for any problems that you have, but you continue to do the same things you do over and over, and to think the same things you think over and over, you're going to be back for another treatment, for another therapy pretty soon. So the most important thing is for us to renew not only our fluidic bodies, but our minds and our spirits. This is really the most important thing. Right? And we get to the end of it. Thanking you very much. I don't even know how much time I spent. There's one question. Okay, I was going to ask if we had time for questions or not.
As if you would like to make a question, please raise your hand. I'll come to you with the microphone. But before we pass on the question to all of you, I would like to pose a question that was asked by our friend Simone from Ecuador. She first says, "Congratulations, Mauricio. Could you tell us about passes given distantly, for example, to an absent patient, please? Thank you."
Yes. Hi, Simone. It's good to hear from you. I hope you're doing good. We miss you a lot. There's many other types of passes we didn't talk about. It's just a lot. It's too much to talk about. But distance passes, as auto passes, distant passes can work only if the patient is apt or is doing his part to receive the therapy, to receive the treatment. If he's open to it, and if he's praying, and if he's meditating, and if he's open for the treatment he's going to receive by the spiritual guides who are going to help him. Usually, we set up a time with patients, Thursday, 8 o'clock of such week, such day, and not only the Spiritist group of the past givers in the Spiritist group do this work and pray and think of this person and send out his thoughts and his prayers, and the spiritual guides do their work. But again, the patient has to be in place and open for it. It can't be like many patients we have sometimes. We do this whole arrangement. We do the prayer for the person. We do the meditations for the person, and then we'll call the person the next day. So how was it? And the person, oh, I forgot, and there's many other patients too who start the therapy and don't continue for one reason or another. Don't continue. If the patient is not open to it, it won't even work if he's present. If he's sitting down in front of us and he's not open to it, that's why we can't make people go through this therapy. If the person doesn't want to do it, just don't force it, because it's going to waste their time and ours. If a person is not open to receive, him or her or they're not going to receive. All right. Anybody else? No. Okay. Yes.
A woman named Barbara Brennan wrote Hands of Light, and her work seems somewhat related to this, and then of course there's Reiki. So I'm wondering how all these three compare and contrast.
I don't know the writer. I know a little bit about Reiki. I usually try to get to know all the stuff that's going on out there, from biofeedback machines to Reiki and to touch healing and other things. I try to know what all this is all about. so far I haven't encountered anything that even comes close to the past therapy we have developed over the years with the help of spiritual guides and Kardec. What I know about Reiki is that it's a therapy really based on concentrating energy, donating energy. I mean, I went through a Reiki session that was done by a Reiki master. And all she did for about 10 minutes was to donate and concentrate energy in my chakras. We who have studied all this, we definitely do not accept that as being a good therapy. All right, I don't accept it, and people who have, gone through these experiences do not accept that to be a good practice. Is it helping anybody? Maybe it is. I mean, I'm not doing their surveys, their research. Maybe it is. Do I think it is? Probably not. Probably not. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much for everybody watching on the internet. It was great to be here. If you guys ever want to stop by South Florida, we're there. Please give us a call. Vanessa has our number, our email. Let's do something together, okay? Thank you.